Hey, welcome to part 3 of my Tale of the Skinnerman. Where we left off, I had gone in to see Granny Bathis, the old hoodoo lady, for answers. Her family members had taken me to see her in a swamp outside Savannah, and she asked that for the information I required that I would give her several things: my full name, first, middle, and last name, hair, because I used to have hair for my head, believe it or not, before I became the Naked Bigfoot. Had hair. And fingernail clippings. Well, I want to take a moment to explain to you because I didn't find out till much later why she requested these things. Bit later in my life, I discovered that when I was discovering myself, and my mentor, who helped me, who aided me in my transition into my religion, which is voodoo, by the way, I told him, my encounter with Granny Bathis, and asked Papa Thomas what it was all about, and he told me that it was her insurance. Yeah, she was extracting from me. I said, insurance for what? He said that so you would not, use any information you gave that she was going to impart to you against her, because you gave her your full name, which in a lot of hoodoo circles is sacred. Names are sacred. True names are sacred. And I gave her physical parts of my body, which she could use to open up a link to do her hoodoo workings on. So if I ran my mouth or acted against her best interests after the information she shared, she could do a working on me that could cause me discomfort, great harm, and potentially death. Which I looked at Papa Thomas and said, wow, I wish I hadn't done that. He said, well, you're not dead yet, are you? And while we're on the subject of hoodoo, I explained hoodoo a little bit. But hoodoo is an odd mountain blending of the traditions of voodoo or voodoo, which is a religion, with the mountain shamanistic practices of various groups and families and cultures that exist out of the way outside of urban settings. Again, it mostly deals with tonics, potions, strange blended things that would be called witchcraft. They don't have a particular people who practice hoodoo don't have a particular god that they worship or set of deities. They do respect and call various inhuman spirits, and human spirits, and once human spirits as well, in their workings. The inhuman spirits, of course, and the once human spirits, if they were cursing someone or trying to heal someone, they would be the tool in which they would use to do that. Yeah, hoodoo is a fascinating practice. It My great grandma Ola was, once I realized what it was, I came to the conclusion that she was a mountain. She was a mountain hoodoo woman. She didn't, as far as I know, cause harm, but she did. She was greatly respected and equally feared by the community and the families that lived around us back in the Appalachia. So, if you have a hoodoo woman in your family, your family is greatly respected and or feared, or both. Didn't know that at the time, but I found out about it much later. Well, I came to a lot of realizations much later about my family and the things that they were involved with in the supernatural world, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Great Granny Bathis, or Granny Bathis. And she was telling me the origins of the Skinnerman, where he came from. And he came across the origins is that he came with the slaves from Africa. And it was the women who, mostly women, who would call on the Skinner to help them exact justice. And justice usually consisted of revenge of some sort. But what would this Skinner man do? Well, obviously, if you think of his name, he would skin you. He would flay you alive. But not necessarily physically. He did do it physically. But he would also skin your soul. He could skin your soul, your spirit, and who you are. As well as doing physical things to you, like extracting skin from your body, from your arms, and from your legs. But most notably, the skin would be that the Skinner would be extracted from the back. One of the most painful places you could have skin removed is along your back. But if you had your soul or your spirit skinned, you would quite possibly go insane. Well, you would go insane, and more than likely you would either commit suicide, or you would harm those you cared about in your family, or ones you loved the most. You would hurt them, possibly kill them, and then you would end up killing yourself in the process. She was a little vague about how it is somehow the tale of the Skinner and the practice of summoning the Skinner transferred to the hoodoo culture. But at some point, right after the Civil War, after the slaves were freed, that and a lot of the slave families and a lot of the voodoo women, the men and women who practice voodoo, began to move about the country. And they would settle in communities, mountain communities and swamp communities, and they would share their faith with the locals. Their faith, and they would use their faith to help the local populations there, the local families there, and it always would intertwine with the local swamp witches or mountain witches or mountain practitioners, and that merging became hoodoo. Not again, not a religion, but a practice. A scary practice. Okay, in chapter 4, I'm going to tell you how Granny Bathis actually allowed me to speak to the Skinner, and allowed me to speak to both people who had, or meet people who had summoned the Skinner, and someone who was about to summon the Skinnerman. And I actually got to sit in on the ritual that is used to summon him. But I'm going to save that to chapter 4.